morning. Today is another one of our first fives. Today we're looking at a text from Galatians chapter 6. And Paul, who writes this, one of the great things that Paul does in much of his writing is he writes in a way that it's practical. It's a way for us to think, if I'm a follower of Jesus, how then am I called to live? What are some things I can do to make sure I'm following Jesus more closely? And I really believe that this text is one of those for us. Here's what Paul writes. Brothers, if someone is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual should restore him gently. But watch yourself, or you also may be tempted. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. Each one should test his own actions. Then he can take pride in himself, without comparing himself to somebody else. For each one should carry his own load. Anyone who receives instruction in the word must share all good things with his instructor. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. The one who sows to please his sinful nature, from that nature will reap destruction. The one who sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. Now, there's so many good things in this little short text here in Galatians chapter 6, but I just want to point out a couple of them today for us to think on. Paul begins with the idea that when someone has sinned, we're to restore them gently. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes people have restored me from sinful things in my life, and it hasn't always been gently, and sometimes it's been like angrily or harshly, but Paul is particular here. He wants it to be done gently. Right? That's important for us. I think too many times we think followers of Jesus aren't known by their gentleness. I don't know about you, but I've never found myself angry with a person who has treated me gently. That's just never happened. But what I can find for us is this: Paul then says, let's carry each other's burdens, but be careful that you don't allow yourself to be entrapped in things that are your temptation, to make sure you don't get stuck in their sinful ways. Right? So in other words, if I'm an alcoholic and that person who's struggling with alcohol, I probably shouldn't be the one to go to the bar and help them overcome it. That should probably be somebody else. Or if I struggle with lust, I probably shouldn't go to certain places to help with that. Whatever my struggle might be, I might need to avoid that, or else I will be brought into temptation. It doesn't mean I can't restore someone gently in that. And then what he says is this: evaluate yourself. Become self-aware. Look at your motives, why you're doing what you're doing, why you're saying what you're saying. And then he adds this: because you reap what you sow. Now, for you and I, the temptation for us is to assume that we're greater than we are. Many of us have grandiose view of ourselves, and some of us have the opposite. We have like self-hatred, right? These are two sides of really the same coin, and we're called to live in the middle of that tension. We're not to think we're awesome in the way that like we think of arrogance or conceited or narcissistic, and we're not to think we're horrible the way that might lead to great depression or suicidal thoughts based on our lack of seeing ourselves as valuable. Those are the two sides of the same coin. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not addressing mental health in that. That's not my point. My point is that you can know that you're valued, that you have worth, that you matter to God, that you are uniquely created, and at the same time recognize that there are people who've done great things in life and you can celebrate with them. And so this kind of tension we're called to live in is important for us to see ourselves as beloved children of God that can be no greater than that. And that for us is the challenge. And so I love this last verse, and we'll end on it. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people. Let us do good to all people, especially to those who are fellow believers. Now, are you and I living in that way? Are we doing good to all people? And part of our self-reflection is, who are the people I'm not doing good to that maybe I should be? And so for you and I, may we find ourselves so committed to the work of Christ that our eyes are opened, that our ears begin to hear, and that we follow after Jesus in such a way that it's evident to others. Now, may you and I find this day that we're reflecting on Christ's love, embracing that love, and sharing that love by how we live. We'll catch you next time for another First Five.